everyone. Welcome to the podcast where I will be meeting different people that I find interesting about science communication in Pakistan. Today, I have with me the co founders of Scientia Magazine, a magazine that specifically targets science communication, science writing, and science outreach. And I will link their website below. We have Maham Maqsood and Fouz Siddiqui. So, we're going to start. I will ask Maham Maqsood if you would like to give a brief introduction about who you are and what is it that you do in Scientia Magazine.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I am professionally, I am a biochemist. I got my bachelor's and master's in biochemistry. And at Scientia, I'm also the co-founder and the managing editor. So when we have the weekly publications or the monthly publications, I oversee the editing process of the articles. And also I'm guiding the new team members that we have on board. There are a lot of responsibilities that I have, but overall, yeah, it's the managing editor role that I enjoy. And I'm also currently working as a science communication training officer at a private company based in Europe. And over the last few years, I have had countless experiences with science communication in Pakistan. And Scientia is like the first platform that we created with the help of other science writers within the country, and it has been thriving over the years. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. Fouz, would you like to continue?
Well, yes, my academic background is astronomy and astrophysics. So within astronomy and astrophysics, a lot of work is done in terms of science communication. And I started Scientia as just a writer, and now I'm co-founder with my other co-founders. And parallel to that, I am a sort of chief information officer. So my job is to another part of my job is to make sure that the technological transformation of into an like in sort of because eventually we are a digital internet company like a media digital media because all of our publication is digital on via web. So and add on whenever we are having internship twice a year, I'm managing the whole thing. So later on it is translated into a quite a managing role, but eventually I'm just a science communicator. So this is, and parallel to that, I also work with kind of studios as a manager science outreach. Uh, so this is all my introduction.
Thank you so much. So, with me, you guys are the co founders, you guys are the editors, you observe all the operational that goes on into this media production. I would like to know how Scientia Magazine came about, what was the starting point, and what were some of the initial struggles you faced, even though for some, it may just be a website, but for you, it is a whole project where you've invested a lot of years into. So, Foz, you can start and then we can pass it on to Maham.
Well, for us, Scientia is, you could say, you could say with confidence and proudly, I could say on Scientia, we have more than 900 published articles over a period of last 7 years. And in terms of writing, it is too minimal within Pakistan. But also we have international writers, but most of our work is regional Pakistan based. So into that context, it is a huge number. And for us, it should be, it is a, in Pakistani SciCom context, it is a complementary thing. It has to be there. And in a context, because Pakistan has, you could say, 350 to 400 universities. So these university student researchers and people must need to have a platform where they could, in writing form, there they could publish on, and as well as we are able to facilitate them as well as another side of training in terms of writing that is which we have been providing, and especially for all the scientific community, engineering community, or whatever you could say, science community, we should be we perceived to be like a media context, whatever the people are trying to do. And so this is Scientia for us. And also, more importantly, last year, one of the amazing achievements we were able to pull off. Last year, we had Pakistan first science writing workshop in Karachi at Habib University. So this is something science writing workshop uh, uh, we never had something, and we were able to have like 65 participants And soon, inshallah, this year we are also going to host it for September. This is something science writing we are able to do on a national scale. So this is what one of the major stuff science is for us. Mom, please.
I like that. Maham, would you like to contribute to it?
Yeah. So, yeah, Foz mentioned about our recent achievements, and I'll go back to when we started it. So, at the time of its inception, we were all university students, the co-founding team, and we wanted to have a platform in Pakistan where students could learn about science and also science communication, and those who are interested in honing their skills of science writing and writing in general can be a part of. So that's how the idea came to be, and then we launched the magazine in 2019. And at that time, there were quite a few challenges because, again, because we were a bit, we didn't have professional experience of running a magazine. So, we had to learn a lot of skills at the beginning, but it went well. The biggest challenge at the time was that because there was no such platform already established in Pakistan, so it was a bit hard for us to navigate how do we promote it, how do we invite audiences to, explore it. And also we tried to promote it on like national news channels and websites, but it wasn't a lot of success because in Pakistan, as you can imagine, it's hard promoting science as a news item. So that was a bit challenging, but I think we have established so far in our journey, we have established us in such a way that we don't need that kind of promotion anymore. Because all of our material is published online, and then because of social media, we have been able to spread it to our audiences, and we have gotten a good response in return. And yeah, another challenge I'd say that we encountered in the beginning was in the same along the same lines of what I just mentioned, that in terms of promotion and audience, uh, people were a bit confused what we were doing. So when they go to our website and our magazine, main the questions would be like, why are you doing this, or what's the purpose of items like these. So we really dumped down the science writing in terms of like, if you are explaining a topic, you cannot write it in scientific way. You have to make it accessible to the layman as well. So we had a good team of advisory members who were already established researchers and communicators, and they were able to guide us of how to write it in such a manner, how to invite the general public. And I think we have now been able to do that very well. So there are a lot of mediums other than just science writing. We have infographics, we have YouTube videos, and we have other programs. So so far we have also fared well in that regard. And yeah, so Foz had already mentioned the other programs that we have been doing. So the challenges I shared at that time, uh, that was it. Yeah. Now
Okay.
we don't have a lot of challenges. It's just that we have enough interest from the public to keep going.
Okay, I like the point about the challenges, and I will come back to it and ask you both on it. But I would like to tell the viewers that Scientia Magazine is a magazine that talks about different topics about science in different categories. So they've separated biology, physics, astrology, all of them from each other because science is a conjoined word to talk. It's just science just means knowledge, and knowledge has its own category. English is knowledge, literature is knowledge. And when I went to your website, I liked how clean cut it was, that if you want certain information, it has its own category. So when we talk about these things, it's important that we understand that the magazine itself, even though it's online, I like the point that you mentioned that a lot of people question, oh, what is it that you're writing about? And you have to, yes, I understand the point of dumbing it down. You cannot use a lot of the technical words. So and you guys also mentioned that it's a volunteer-based nonprofit organization that you have set up as students. It started in 2019, and so far it has worked really well for both of you. I have a question, and that is the challenges that you mentioned. You talked about how the audience didn't know, and you had to explain to them what it was. And you say that you don't face those challenges anymore. So I would like to come back to that point and ask you, what has changed? What is something that you have felt in the atmosphere of related to science and its communication that you think that has reduced many of these problems for you? You can start, Maham, and then we can ask Foz to take over.
I think one of the big things that happened was like the COVID-19 pandemic. So when the pandemic happened, we launched specific editions on the theme of like viruses and health sciences. And during that time, we had a lot of like influx of new readers. Like people were very eager to learn the information about how what it is, what's the background. So that kind of shifted the public perception of science in a different way, I guess. For the good or the worse, the pandemic really shifted the landscape for science communication. Like people were interested in like learning about the viruses and all the details that it entails, and then ultimately, I guess. Because we did very focused editions on viruses, as I mentioned, we generated a lot of traffic on the website, and also we gained a lot of new followers. And then because of the word of mouth, like I guess we had a good um, we had a good like influence, and we had lots of other editions followed by the COVID-19 edition, which were on different themes. And then we were sort of able to pinpoint like what the people want or what the interest is. And what we started doing after the COVID pandemic was like we were doing and we still do it to this day. Like we have bi-monthly editions right now, and we try to focus the theme of the edition to the ongoing situation or the ongoing topics that people are interested about. So for example, we recently did an edition on defense, and when we had like the floods and all of those earthquakes and all of those environmental problems, we did an edition on climate change. So I think that also helps us to keep the public in the loop. And yeah, that has been a really helpful strategy. And overall, in science, like social media has had such an influence. So it's easier for us to reach to the people as opposed to when it was like before the COVID-19 pandemic. Information is being shared on like a lot of, I'd say, higher rate, like reels, WhatsApp, like all of this like new modes of communication have helped us as well. So yeah, that's why I have said we still have a lot of challenges, but the challenge that we faced early on, I'd say that has definitely removed out of the way.
Good. Thank you so much. I'll come back to your points. Fouz, would you like to add?
Well, yeah, I think absolutely there are two aspects of first, as Maham mentioned, social media. Because historically, in science communication in Pakistan, it is not like that people were not trying to do. Historically, if you would see Parvez Boy, he did an excellent series, and in I don't know in 1980, I might be wrong about the year, but he did excellent, and he was advocating SciCom. And contrary to that, Dawn look at not a proper science piece, but Dawn publishes a lot of stories. I mean, some quite are related to science. So people were doing in the journalism sense, but I think they were not able to amplify because of social media. Number one, and secondarily, I think if I talk about current people, if I could point out two, three, for example, in Lahore, if we have Forensic Science Society, and Dr. Sabi Anwar, he has been doing this for 30 years, 25, 30 years. In Karachi, Dr. Salman Hamid has been doing astronomy for, he's US-based, but is connected to for Pakistani audiences. He has been for 15 to 20 years. So there have been some people who have, you could say, established some sort of base and nurtured their communities. So I think we have been working with both of them in different capacities. So the point is that, for example, the Salman Hamid is also an advisory board member at Scientia. So my point is, it is connected in a lineage sense. So this is something now we have some communities. And Ma mentioned about that, for example, we have writers from Qajar Azam University, LUMS, Karachi University, and GCU. We have a really good writer from Government College University. Lahore, Dr. Mustafa, there is he's a microbiologist, and a lot of professor academic people are sending their students. So this is something like the you could say basis of we have a community, and this if you would have asked this question to me 7, 8 years ago, or any other expert, I was not an expert 7, 8 years ago, they must have said that no, there is much less of a base. So there is something. So challenge is reduced in a sense, but absolutely the challenge is there. And if whenever you would come back to the question, challenge is absolutely there because we are quite a large country, and especially in a densely populated region like South Asia, and so this is it is there. But quite we have, but we over the past 5 6 years, due to the advent of social media and post-COVID world, immense has changed.
Yeah. I agree with both of your points, sister. If you looked at science communication or science outreach or even just scientific journalism 10, 20 years ago, nobody would even understand the definition. Now we're starting to see some traces of it. And primarily it is because the youth has woken up since COVID. COVID set up a scientific tone, especially our parents would be receiving a very weird often misinformation about science, and at least they started understanding what the word virus meant, which was an actual biological, non-living entity that was able to cause diseases in us. But it was more to them. They thought that virus was just a thing that happens to your laptop and your laptop goes bust and they have to buy you another laptop. And it science I did notice that in my parents. And then we tackled a lot of misinformation. So there were people who were like waiting for the right information to publish that right information. And then there were people who were like, oh no, there's an audience. Let's just give them whatever we have. And although both have their own pros and cons, I would not say which side is right. I would understand that you both have, of course, Scientia Magazine had to deal with that as well. And I would first of all like to applaud because COVID for Pakistanis, for every country, they had their own version of COVID. For us, it was very confusing. People were going hungry, people were dying, and I would like to applaud you for that. So, coming back to the point of how you mentioned your advisory board, I would like to talk about that in a minute. But you mentioned social media, and I do greatly agree with it. Social media has changed just a simple definition of communication now. So, what do you see the future trend of social media and science communication changing in the next 5 years for Pakistan? Like, what kind of trend are you seeing in Pakistan? So I can just start with Foz and then we can go towards Maham.
Well, I think for us as a science communicator, the problem is that, as you mentioned about the COVID aspect,
Mm-hmm.
uh, for doing science in any context, especially and more especially for science communicators, the
Mm-hmm.
accuracy is something that you cannot never compromise on. It is the basis of what we do.
Yes.
And about accuracy and with relate to accuracy, I mean, the expertise needed to be there, people who actually understand how science works. So from that aspect is that, and you have to just for social media, the thing is that a lot of sensationalism is there, in
Mm-hmm.
and people. Okay, one of the main reasons for Scientia and other SciCom platforms, one of the hurdles in social media, what we see is that because science is not sensational. Okay,
True.
you can have a like a very fancy headline, but you have to make sure that your headline does not, you could say, it's not deceptive. It is as accurate as is possible, and okay, you can make it interesting so people are more interested. But
Mm-hmm.
this is one of the reasons. But I think for us, Scientia, because we are our core is dependent on written content.
Mm-hmm.
So for written content, I sometimes it is you could say it is quite perplexing in a
Okay.
sense that written content is quite also writing is diminishing. So there are, like for example, if we talk about the advent of AI, writing
Yeah.
is diminishing, but at the same time, people still read. Okay, even in Pakistan, the readership is quite low, but all over the world, the magazines and everything is sustaining it. It could be said it is stagnant, but it is there. It has its own presence. But second to that, the video form of content out everywhere. It is thriving. Everyone wants to like to watch and hear. And most of, I think people, our source of information and 90% of 95% of would be video. So
Mm-hmm.
this is something science has to transform. But at the same time, you know the importance of writing. After
Mm-hmm.
10,000 year, 20,000 year, uh, I mean, just you can always trace back to writing, and
Mm-hmm.
it is evidential. It is a part of human record. So
Mm-hmm.
there is something it is not going to diminish. And writing gives you a different sort of authority because written content. And so this is something. that is we want to stick to. But yeah, I mean, have to adapt with social media and everything, balancing between both. I think that's it.
Okay, thank you. Maham, would you like to add?
I completely agree with Fouz. He just mentioned, especially with the advent of AI, and also misinformation that's linked with AI. So like that is a new challenge, but I would like to stay hopeful, because humans have this like kind of resilience against negative odds. So like especially like if going back to like the era of COVID, we had a lot of misinformation then as well. But
Mhm.
against all odds, people were still very interested in what's the right thing to say, or if you have a personal conviction about getting to the bottom of some things, or getting the right news, or not misleading people in any way. So that still like helped, and there was a lot of like still I see people are correcting, students are correcting their elders, like no, this is not the way things are, or so that's I think going to continue, and I'm very hopeful that even with a lot of misinformation and with especially artificial intelligence, uh, I think there are going to be positive things. So for instance, at Scientia we heavily discourage artificial intelligence in writing. uh, you cannot completely like outlaw it, because people are going to use it. It is a very good and helpful tool, but you can definitely list different ways to use it efficiently instead of just replacing you altogether. So for example, in our internships, science writing internships, we have like now like a new guideline of using AI. Okay, you can use it to refine your ideas, you can use it to refine the structure of your writing, but you cannot completely use it to just write a piece and then submit. And we regularly check the submissions. So if there is an artificially generated piece of writing, we don't accept it. uh, but still, we have been continuing over the years using strategies like this, and I think in the future as well, I see that with all the misinformation going on, especially with social media, there are going to be positive elements. People are still going to look out for real information, look out to verify and vet their the sources of information. So that's going to stay there. I don't think that's going to change. Uh, there might be a difference in like the percentage of people believing in misinformation as opposed to those who seek the truth. But you have to stay hopeful, because otherwise it won't be of any use. Like cannot just say that okay, because all of these things are coming, you just shut down. No, you cannot do that. You have to keep going forward. And I think there will be good developments as well. So we cannot always look out for negative things. There will be good developments. I hope there are some other tools we can use efficiently for science communication as well. Yeah, I am hopeful for the future.
Thank you. I think for the collective, both of you are telling me that the future of science communication looks like where a lot of information will now go towards social media. People will adapt to the trends. Science has to adapt to the trends. And you both mentioned using AI as a tool, not as a replacement. I love that because yes, people with the whole thing about AI going around in the Silicon Valley and how AI is trying to take over the world, and we are having weird conversations about robots or human. And I think it's about time we come back to the basics. Is like what makes us human is to be want to, read human, be with humans. And an AI it just doesn't do the same thing. And I like the point that you mentioned that you have your guidelines and that sets a tone that yes, AI is there, but it's there as a tool. And if you are gonna just ask AI to do all your work for you, then you will never know how to do it yourself. And you're just helping this arms race to let AI take over the world. As a very big conspiracist of that, I don't want to get into it.
Yeah.
However, I like how both of you just mentioned that being hopeful. And that is really important because considering the political climate we Pakistanis live in, and plus the heat wave, we have, I don't know, we're very resilient. And that is something that we have persistently managed so far. We've seen governments come and go, we've seen files being leaked, we've seen a lot of stuff, and we have been together, especially people who understand the true power of truth. So now this comes to the point of how, this is a very political question, but the government doesn't value education and science the way a lot of other governments in the world do. So I'm sure you both must have seen that firsthand because you're trying to deal with students, the youth, and trying to get any kind of support, whether it's from media or government or any institute. What is it that the government can do? Any two or three things that you can think of that can speed up or at least accelerate science and outreach and journalism in Pakistan in the next 10 years so that we can catch up to the rest of the world, which is already on the train of science communication. So, Maham, would you like to take this one?
Yeah, but I don't have a very positive answer, unfortunately. So I'd like to mention the example of Sparkle.
Okay.
When it was, so it's a space agency of Pakistan, and the foundations were laid by Dr. Abdul Salam. And when it was first established, like the kind of work that was being done, we were very fortunate to interview one of the founding members of Sparko. It's in our website. So when I was interviewing him, he was telling me, such interesting stories and the passion those people had. They were working with NASA. They were launching satellites and rockets into space. And when you see the state of Sparko right now, unfortunately, it's not very positive. And there needs to be a lot of work done. So it all comes down to like one basic thing, which is education. The state of education in Pakistan right now, it needs to be like completely revamped, because only if you have like good educated individuals, then you can inspire them, make them curious. Like the first and foremost thing I believe is required for leading like a good professional life, and also like especially if you're interested in science, is curiosity. And in our schools, the way students are taught, unfortunately, that is discouraged. Like you're not allowed to ask questions or those kinds of things. So that just kills your curiosity. And then if you're not curious about anything, how are you going to explore about science? Because science is all about staying curious and asking the questions, right? So we need to revamp the education system. Now, that is something that I don't know how many years it will take, but we can start from somewhere, right? We can encourage teachers at school to, in their teaching methodologies, encourage students to seek out new things, to try new things, right? And then, especially in terms of science communication, I think I'll refer to the example of like Khwarizmi Science Society, that the way they are holding these Lahore Science Melas, and also now they're expanding it to different cities. So every year, like you see their report on Lahore Science Mela, I'm specifically talking about, and there are like millions of people, like in lakhs, people are coming to the festival. Students, not even some people who are not even students, their parents, just the general public, and they're so much interested, right? So it means like if you give the right avenues, if you give the right platform, if you communicate science in an interesting way, people will like literally flock you towards that thing. So I think that the government can also like have some initiatives like that. There are a lot of things that are being done in Pakistan. I wouldn't say it's completely bleak, but in terms of like science communication specifically, it will be really nice if they put together a small festival or even something that can be accessed online, because again, this is such a like internet has revolutionized accessibility to information and all of these new things. So that can be done. And also maybe if they are already established organization, they can support them in communicating and advocating for science. So that is also a step that they can take. However, all of this depends on their level of interest. So if they're interested in the promotion of science and the promotion of education activities, that is something that can be done then. But if the interest is not there, you cannot force the government for sure. So there are like in private capacities, a lot of work is being done. That's true in science communication in Pakistan. But in government capacities, there needs to be a lot of conversations about how to employ them in such a way that it's efficient, and it's also like encouraging people to look out for science and stay curious like in general. So that's my take on that.
I like how there are like three main keywords: education, curiosity, as well as resourcefulness. These are the three main things you want the government to further incorporate towards that. I actually agree with all of the points because yes, education is a key to all of those venues, and if curiosity is killing the cat, then that's I don't think that's the right way to go about it. Okay, Foz, what would you like to add?
Well, I think actually a very objective analysis in a sense. If you would see Pakistan's fiscal budget for education, it was for recent it was 0.7. It is the lowest in the region in South Asia. And to more aspiring countries like Bhutan has one of the highest, and India has somewhere around 2.0. It like nearly double. And Pakistan being, I mean, like we are like, I think, fifth largest population, 240 million people, if I'm if I'm not, but 240 million is the number ranking. So in a country like this, the point is that the government has one aspect of it, the authority. When you have authority to, I mean, you could enforce a lot of stuff. Just like I mean, when you are, and uh, so in Pakistan, another example I would give you. Uh, there are, if you talk about science institutions, for example, the Parco, Guyana, Ocean, there is an ocean institution, there is National Center for Physics at Islamabad, and there are top of if it is a science-related university, NUST, Qaeda University, GK, and LUMS also have a really good physics department now. These institutions must have, these are big institutions, big budgets. This institution must have, you could say, public engagement departments, science communication department, chairs, and people. One of the things, if I'm not wrong, earlier 3 to 4 years ago, LUMS physics department was the first one to have a position for a science communicator. And at that time, Dr. Sabi Anwar was the chair of physics department, and when he was the dean, he had this position. And there are 350 universities. Okay, not all universities are science universities. Okay, let's take the 21, the larger ones. Even if those 20 of those have 20 people who are promoting and engaging with public and doing science and actual positions, paid positions, just like it could be like a professor, that professor could have the second position as well. This another example. Second example, because these things will define a cultural shift. And second example, I would like to add, if we talk about, I'm into my background is with the space sciences, so I will give an example from this. Two examples. If we talk about Saparco is obviously in every country, space agencies are very correlated with defense, and they work under the banner. There are multiple reasons. I don't want to get into that. But Suparco was a very, you could say, still it is a very restricted, like in a private institution, like for the public aspect. But in 2023, when India sent lunar mission Chandrayaan, and there was this lunar landing was the talk of town, and Pakistan started comparing, and people started comparing, and this was, I think, immensely influential and an amazing thing that happened. And for most recently now, I think for last 1 or 2 years, I know Soparco has been more interested and more practical towards science communication and engagement. And they have this institution called Seeds, and they are engaging with
Yes.
public. But this was not active 5 6 years ago, and Soparco has been here since Dr. Abdul Salam era. So the
Mm-hmm.
point is that this is one example. And recently, Soparco is now, I mean, whatever the space missions we have been doing, we have been sending satellites. And now this is now becoming a part of news.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is saying, oh, Pakistan is sending us another satellite. And second to that, if I and we are all and we were from Scientia, we were not able to cover stories because we didn't have much from a media perspective. And recently, earlier, maybe last year or way before last year, Maham was able to interview. What was his name? He was a
Qaid, I think Dr. Qaid, not wrong.
Dr. Tahir.
Qaid,
Okay,
Qaid. I'll recheck.
Dr. Kaid.
I'll
Okay, I'm
recheck.
really
Fine.
I
You
don't
guys have
wanna,
interviewed
but
so many people that now at this point you're
yeah,
confusing all the famous people you've
absolutely.
talked to. I love that
Yeah,
confusion.
yeah, yes. So my shorter version of this. So now people are interested, and we scientists are interested to communicate. But the point is, you have to take one step. I mean, I
Mm,
have to be optimistic at somewhere. Also, I'm a personally a very pessimistic person, but whatever we do out of our optimism that translated and then actually happened. Yes, Dr. Tariq Mustafa.
okay.
So, and then secondly, for example, another aspect of, for example, so this is what I think that the responsibility lies within the government. In this aspect, the state institution must have some sort of seriousness about this. And
Mm,
recent, but the numbers are quite, I mean, non-serious, like 0.7 percent of education budget for a country such huge amounts as like us, 240 million. And because even that will translate, and more institutions, we have Pakistan Science Foundation, but it doesn't have a like a serious huge budget. But we but need to have these institutions even on provincial language. Okay, now we have in Karachi, Pakistan, we have Magnified Science Center, which
okay.
is one of the first. It is the first private sector science center or science museum, you could say, in
Yeah.
Karachi. We have a National History Science Museum in Islam, but in Karachi, this is the one of the first. But it is supported by Dawood Foundation. It is a private venture from that. And another aspect of this is that we have quite huge private you could say private billion-dollar companies in Pakistan. My point is, through their part of corporate social responsibility, they're interested to do a lot of other stuff, but they should have, even if for them millions are peanuts. Okay, if because Pakistan, I mean, they would be interested to sponsor Pakistan cricket team with billions. Just an
Yeah.
example, and contrary to if some millions or some sort of smaller numbers, even if we could get from through science, a lot of could be changed in even period of 10 years. So these are like the policy shift has to be there.
Mm-hmm.
One example, if you would remember, Pakistan, from environment aspect, I would like to give. There are a lot of examples. Environment aspect, Pakistan had this 1 billion ton tsunami and then 10 billion ton tsunami. I mean, those kinds of initiatives when are coming from a serious institution level. These things do translate immensely and amazingly, and you can objectively calculate and see the outcomes and the social impact. That's
I agree with you that the number of people we have in Pakistan and the amount of budget we're allocating towards their safety, towards their health, and towards their education is so menial that it makes you question if the government even understands who they're actually working for. But that has been an on and off discussion within Pakistan ever since Pakistan was created. I think we will be having that conversation for some time. That is an important point. And I do agree with your point that top universities like LUMS, NUST, and other universities, I did my 1 year of master's in NUST before I came to the US. And I personally saw how NUST itself has a lot of different outreach programs. For every different department, they have their own outreach. But when it came to the particular department that I was in, I saw that there was not a lot of outreach. And so I was one of the starting founders for NUST Agriculture Society, and I pinpointed the same issue that being a big institute with a lot of budget and students were dying to have these opportunities to start up collaborations in societies, to talk about science, to bring science forward that is being done by the university. It is such an important thing, and it is such an easy thing for students to do because they're active, they're energetic, they are inspiring. And to your point about these big organizations and institutes that are working with it, whether it's the energy sector or the environment sector or other government funded, they have so much money to invest towards communication, towards even just the communication of their own product, their own departments, but they
it.
don't do it. And I think marketing is so much different from science communication because marketing it talks about a whole different thing, but marketing is more about money, whereas science communication is more about getting the public on the right page so that they can make better decisions. So I know Maham is going to be back in a while. So what we're going to do is that I'm going to ask you one more question about your point. When you have been working alongside, since you have a background in aviation, what is it that you see the youth playing a role? Because I know the youth changes. We're different generations, boomers, millennials. I don't even know at this point. How do you see the youth taking charge with science communication? Do you think that the youth has the, are they ready? What is it that they need to be ready? And what kind of predictions can you see?
Well, I think first of all, well, I don't want to sound negative, but there is one challenge of you could say anti-science culture and behavior within Pakistan. And because I'm not a social or cultural expert, I could not point it out the reason, but it is there, and it is one of our challenges when you are communicating science, and because people tend more towards a pseudo science and a lot of stuff. I mean, people confuse science with a lot of stuff. So when we I'm talking about uh, young people, they're obviously, they're taking up the charge, and also in you could say in private sector. I mean, if you were like in any industry, they have been given the charge in terms of marketing and in terms of any other field. But at policy making level and at institution level, at government level, young people participation from youth is very minimal. Okay, because it's like a 65% of. Okay, I understand. Some people will come up with an argument that young people don't have the experience. Okay, I understand, but you can always find people who are like in their early 30s, early 40s, and as much as the trend is changing all over the world, and whatever the innovation is coming, it comes because the human brain development has been quite different. 20 years ago, if a person with 20 years of experience was doing something, today a person with 5 year, 10 year of experience is able to do, because a lot of technological support, a lot of things have become easier. So to your point, and also from the young people perspective, you cannot be hopeless, and a lot of time for especially very young people, people who are in the early 20s, you could say even teenagers, Gen Z, these people have to some sort of trust in the process, in a sense, because when they are moving forward, they instantly won't have results, and they should not even, I could say, subscribe to the idea of instant gratification. You have to do something, and you have to wait. You have to do something, you have to wait. And then eventually you are able to bring out some change or impact or something. And even the story of Scientia, if we had instantly decided after 1 year in sort of our that if 1 year that we have these cons, we have focused more on cons and less on our pros. So the story wouldn't have been continued. And even every year, whenever we are having our meetings and our own discussions, and we have to be more focused what we have achieved. So this is something. And one more aspect of that, I think even science and regionally and everything, we have to also come from this mindset of decolonization. And when I'm talking about decolonization, my point is in science communication, we always have to, even in writing or video content, we have to integrate our own cultural values or ideas, because and this way you can connect more with people, because even though we publish all of our content in English, but there can always it is a contradiction, but there can always be a connect with people, with the culture, what is happening, how they see, what is our history, and what has had been happened. So these are the things, like you have to connect with people. This is something young people have to make sure to have some fruits of what they are trying to achieve.
I agree with your point about the, as someone who had been working on this field, you guys have seen, you guys already mentioned the first year was not that good. I agree that the youth has to, they are looking for people who motivate them. And if they don't get the first fruit, they're like, oh, maybe I'm not good enough. And you have to constantly remind them. I was one of those students. I had to constantly remind myself, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you what you need at the right time. Just keep paving the way forward. Maham, my question for Foz was, we can clearly see that the youth is the future for Pakistan, and we want them to be more proactive in this. And so I was asking Foz, and I would also like you to answer this question. What is it that you see the youth doing for science communication? What are they changing? What is in their behavior? And what can you predict for the youth related to science communication in Pakistan?
Well, I mean, first of all, we see that the landscape today it's very different than it was a few years ago. Because like when the time that we were growing up, so when I was growing up, there was no smartphones per se. Like we were like within the cusp, we are the generation that like at the cusp of the advent of smartphones and
Mm-hmm.
all of the information like let's say era that came afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that it has its pros and cons, like what just Foz mentioned. There are a lot of opportunities out there, and what needs to be done is that you have to be proactive about it. And I recently mentioned it in another interview that I was doing, is that in this day and age, you cannot just sit around and just wait for somebody to help you out, or to make the path for you. You have to do it yourself. Like that's the way it has always been. It's just that now you have the opportunities right in front of you, where previously there were a lot of troubles. If you, for example, if I want to connect with some scientist in USA, I can just shoot an email today. That's all I have to do, right? I can write a good draft and explain my intentions and whatever it is that I want to do with them, interview them, or take their advice or work with them. It's very easy, as opposed to it was like even like a few decades before.
Yep.
So that's one thing. And then secondly, there are a lot. There's so much information that one can get overwhelmed, certainly. So like you don't know where to start. Uh, you know, uh, all of those things. But if somebody is curious enough, if somebody is like passionate about certain thing, they'll certainly find their way. And with respect to like science communication, we see like there are not a lot of new programs in universities, new undergraduate programs, and we are seeing like right now students are, they don't just have to decide during their school years that whether they'll be doing an MBBS or an engineering. There are a lot more options right now, right? So I think that's good that there are opportunities for them to explore, and then along the way, if they can explore further, like what is it that interests them, what is it that they're curious about, if they seek it out, I think they'll definitely find the opportunities, and it's only going to get bigger from here. Again, I'd stay hopeful. I don't think it's going to get any smaller, because uh, we have we have like established communities, we have new organizations that are working for the promotion of science, or also education, or stuff that is related to it. And since it's more of an interconnected world right now, you can reach out to people from other areas. We have done collaborations, like cross-border collaborations, and working with other organizations. When I was in Turkey during my master's, I worked for ComSciCon Turkey. Like it was the first time a ComSciCon event was held there, and I got to get in touch with the organizing team that was in the US. And I think that's something that can be done in Pakistan as well. Right now, we are working with ACM. If those can, I don't know, at some point elaborate on that as well. So it's the Association for Computing Machinery in USA, and last year with the event we did in Habib University in Karachi was funded by them. It was a collaboration of their celebrations grant. So there are a lot of opportunities similarly for individuals as well. I'm talking about at an organizational level, but on an individual level, there are also a lot of opportunities. There are networking events. There are, again, for if somebody is looking to do a research degree, they can also seek professionals out and search for their interest. That's the main point. Like search for the interest, and then explore the opportunities that are available there. Otherwise, you can only always create opportunities for yourself. Like that's something that no one can take away from you. So that's like the inception of Scientia. It was an opportunity that we all created by ourselves. And it was, again, also for personal gain, but on a broader scale, I'd say that it was for like, beneficial. I hope that it's beneficial for the general landscape of Pakistan as well. And I do see people are interested in continuing this and making more opportunities for others as well. And I think it's going to get bigger from here. Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying that you want students to be more proactive, go out there, seek the help, they have all the opportunities and resources available. And then you also pointed towards just the fact that there are so many opportunities as well as like in universities now, they're offering these courses or programs as well as international programs. I definitely agree. If you are in the right circles, if you're in the right algorithm, but whatever social media app you're using, you will find it. And I myself sometimes I'm just scrolling on the app and I would be on LinkedIn and I would find this really amazing program that is for undergrads. I am unfortunately not an undergrad apparently, and I cannot apply for those. And I'm like, why? Where was this when I was an undergrad? But the world is quickly keeping up with it, and the person
Yeah.
sitting next to me, same age, same circle, but a different network on LinkedIn, did not see that, and they are an undergrad. And it's like, it's different. We all, it's for me, it all comes back to me for like what you seek is already seeking you, and if there's a will, there definitely will be a way. Well, I
I
think
mean,
we're coming. Sorry, yes,
so
please.
I'd just like to add that
Yeah.
at this day and age, right? So if you see these family vloggers or these vlogging channels in Pakistan, they have so much audience, and a lot of their audience are young kids, right?
Yeah.
So I personally think that uh, at this day and age, you cannot just say that there aren't opportunities for a certain somebody, right? There
Mm-hmm.
are opportunities. You just need to look for them. So, for example, Kainat Studios has a kids channel started a
Okay.
couple of years ago. They are making videos exclusively for kids. And when we started out, like we weren't getting a lot of views, even though it was like the production value. I encourage you to go and check it out. The production value is so good. It's
Mm-hmm.
animated, hand drawn. Script is written by scientists and researchers, and it's like intended for Pakistani audience. It's in Urdu. Um, so the content is there, right? The content is there. It's just that the audience needs to be redirected. But you cannot take somebody's hand and show it to them. If if you're interested, for example, encourage parents to show their children these educational cartoons, or instead of just them wasting their time on TikTok and Instagram. On again, if it's for their entertainment, it's totally fine. But at the same time, you cannot just say, if you're at one point watching all these videos on social media, and then you say that we don't have access to uh, these good educational channels in Pakistan. I think that's wrong, because there are channels. I have personally like seen Kainat. Dr. Salman himself is producing such high quality videos. He has been doing this for last decade, and he has put so much effort in, and all he doesn't have any monetary gain from that. He's just doing it for the passion of it, and it's out there. And he does live sessions on YouTube, and there are a lot of people who connect with him. There are Q&As, but the audience is still like very less, as opposed to channels on YouTube that are not doing anything.
Yes.
Uh, I'd say for the benefit of somebody, right? So there are opportunities and there are resources that are intended for the audiences. They just know they should know like where to look. They should seek it out themselves. That's the thing.
I have a personal vendetta against those kind of meaningless YouTube videos because I know some people who watch it. I don't judge them, I don't say anything, but then I'm like, well, what did you gain from this? If your brain is the most powerful organ that you have and you're feeding it, whatever information you're feeding it gets used to it. That's what you're reprogramming it. And neuroplasticity is such a big concept now that you are literally what you think. You are literally
Yeah.
what you let into your brain. And I think there's a bigger conversation to be had about how the long form media, YouTube especially, and the type of content that is produced is shaping us to think about the world in a certain way when the world is actually in a different other way. There's a reality, and then there's a different like reality that's being painted. And again, we talked about this, how the the media industry in Pakistan is designed around so much different drama that it lacks a foresight into what's actually important. Me knowing my women rights, another person knowing their rights, and to know how to file a lawsuit or how to be able to manage their taxes or how to understand what the government actual structure is. We're not being taught that. And it's like we're being trained to think about things that are not useful and blinded to the stuff that's really useful. I saw Foz shaking his head aggressively at so many things. Would you like to add something to it?
Well, I think not much. I mean, you guys have pointed out, but also another aspect of this, it is okay. There is entertainment has to be there. Okay, entertainment is also a part of our life. We can always not. I also, I mean, we cannot always do science, but at the same time, the point is that there is some sort of balance is needed. And for example, Maham has pointed out that these channels are very much bigger channels in Pakistan or all over. I mean, there is drama, there is production. Okay, you are producing for a filmmaker. Okay, you are producing five, six movies or some sort of products in sort of entertainment. I mean, some sort of, you could say, component of science or information, useful information, or something which is to the greater good of benefit. That could also be a part of content because, as well as, for example, whenever we are writing, we have to come up with a lot of interesting facts and stuff as well. Huge numbers. I mean, what is happening? How is it related to public? First aspect. Secondly, when we are creating videos, we have to put in some sort of fascinating facts, some interesting story, some cultural element, a little bit of sensationalism has to be there as well as in writing and uh, in uh, but the point is there is need to be some sort of quality or standard which has to be maintained. And I know it is difficult, but in the longer run, I mean, for example, this content, this website would be a part of, okay, I know, for example, if I'm writing an article, it is getting on day one, it is getting 400, 300 views. Very, very minimal for a country like Pakistan. Okay, I know over a span of period for 2 years when it would be live, it will have 2,000 or 3,000 views. And among those 2,000, 3,000 views, we can only bring, you can be beneficial of you could say the curve of learning. It is like for maybe 50, 30 people. So
Right.
even when we are talking about our internship, okay, we have like 35 people, but we by the end of internship there are like you could say 20% or 25% people who are really very well polished, and some of those and even to the minimal of that, some who really pursue and carry on do a really good become really good science communicator. And sometimes when Maham and I and even Sadika, when we are looking at those articles after 6, 7 months that especially one intern had written, and it is there that some people have immense talent, and it is just needed to be polished
Mm-hmm.
over there. And also another aspect is that encouragement. Okay, opportunities are there on a institutional level as adults, as people. If someone is pursuing something optimistic or something meaningful or from the science aspect as well, you have to, okay, a little bit diligent and blindly. You have to encourage them, even if you don't understand. Because the point is that whatever the value you are adding in their journey, and even to my context is that I would not have pursued left engineering or pursued science or done science communication if people had not encouraged me. I would have not blindly. I mean, because it takes immense of encouragement as well.
I agree with that point. I think the main emphasis is people need mentors, and the lack of mentors in
Mentors.
Pakistan. There are people who are willing to be mentors, but we so doubt ourselves that we're either scared to start or scared to stop at some point. And so we're scared to assess our work and try to understand where we went wrong so that we can fix it and improve our performance. And I think you both have done a lot of mentorship, either by you are training these students to learn or communicate or outreach. And the credit does go to you. As I said in the beginning, you're setting the precedent for science communication to be beneficial and generate revenue in the future. You may not be making any money from this, but you both mentioned how Scientia has allowed you to expand your own career, have increased network, and basically gain a lot of skill sets. So it all boils down to the main thing, science communication in Pakistan, and you're dealing with Pakistanis back and forth. And this is my last question, and this is something that I ask everyone. What does it mean to be a Pakistani for you? Like, if you had to describe what is a Pakistani, how would you? You can either describe it in one word or in one sentence, or even in a quotation by Khaidi Azam. I'll take it. So, who wants to go first?
I have to think about it. That's a good question.
See, I got you guys. I finally got you guys on a question. I got the science people thinking.
Yeah, I mean, we are science people. We are not very subjective, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah, but okay, I will go on. Then you can get. Okay, so well, the point is that when we are talking about Pakistan, Pakistan was a colonized region. Okay, we grew up in a colonized country, and I mean, uh, I'm speaking English very frequently near to my native language. And the point is, but at the same time, the it's not about any competition with uh, any other nation or like because of Pakistani context you ask. But at the same time, from the regional aspect, what I drive and I think is that uh, talented people like are everywhere and in our own language, in our culture, in our region, wisdom has been there in the past, and we can always connect it to that. We also have the same you could say same triumph of stories to tell, and because especially and I absolutely look Pakistan from a very global south lens. That Pakistan is just a part of this horizontal landscape from Africa to Southeast Asia, and and well, we have some strengths like we have a very good human resource. Okay, we are not a knowledge country, but at the same time, uh, but as a Pakistani, as a person from South Asia, I can we can we are. My point is we don't have lesser stories than any other region in the world. More simpler, if I would say, and as well as whether we are talking about science, we have Dr. Abdul Salam. Whether we are talking about music, Pakistan has one of the best musics in all over the world. Okay, and we are talking about when we are talking about okay writers. Okay, we have a lot of writers, but it's still okay. That is quite I mean debatable. But the historical the art and literature in the region, the Pakistan history, it is immense. Another aspect of it where Pakistan have a lot of stuff, but the lack of preservation. Absolutely. I mean, there is some few things we could improve a little, and I think after that we wouldn't be very much of you could say hopeless, less of hopeless we would be. That's just something I was saying, and we are mostly on the bare minimum. What I have seen everywhere whenever I am Pakistani, what I have in recent year, I have whenever I'm meeting people from different countries, I tell them, okay, we will always find Pakistan to at least do the bare minimum. Okay, we will not be like too high. Okay, not too low, but we try to maintain the bare minimum. So, but yeah, we must tell our own stories. That's it.
Like how you connected it to our roots and history and culture, and bring it back to the point that it's important that we do more than the bare minimum. We should be setting
Yes.
a new standard. I like, yeah, Pakistani setting a new standard. I like that. What about you, Maham?
Yeah, one word that came to my mind was like optimistic. So to be a Pakistani, you have to stay optimistic. I've had like very good professional opportunities related to science communication, and unfortunately, just because I was a Pakistani, I couldn't get access to these opportunities like visa and all those things, right? And then if you that's what I'm talking from a personal point of view. And then from a professional point of view within science communication, we started with an optimistic narrative that we will put this information out, and we hope that there is somebody to relate. And that's like our motto still to this day, that we hope that we generate all this content, and then people will, take a look at it. And at certain times, for example, there might be a piece that we worked on like for some while, or some information that we have gathered with some effort, and it wouldn't get a lot of views or readers. But we try not to let ourselves down because of it. We're like, okay, it's fine. We had like one setback, but we had quite a, good results with other thing as well. And overall, like throughout the journey, and what I feel in the future as well, we have to just stay positive and optimistic that things will work out, because that's like the one thing that we do in all, like I guess, walks of life. Like for every sector in Pakistan, right, there is an optimism. Oh, we hope that the fuel prices will go down. Oh, we hope that the education system will get better. Oh, we hope that the political situation will improve. So there's always like a hope and optimism. That's like, I guess that's like rooted in what it means to be a Pakistani, for all of the things that we face, for all of the things that we put our effort into. And also, of course, it's linked to religion as well, because we are taught that think about sabr and shukr and then patience, and that is all linked with how we perceive things. And especially like we are in such a politically charged area, like geographically, uh, with politics and all of the other things that we have seen since our inception, even since Pakistan came into being. The history and our present, and I think our future as well, it has been very turbulent. So there is always something happening. So for example, I was talking to somebody who's from a different country, and I mentioned last year when the India-Pakistan war was happening. So I was mentioning, oh, we have a war and this is going on. And also we had floods, and, we lost this many people. And also there's a heat wave going on. And also there is like the political leader of the country is like right now in jail, and there are protests happening. Also, like there are these issues with the, unfortunately, gender-based violence and all of these things. And they're like, oh, okay, we are like living in a blissful environment. I won't say that every country has its own problems, but like, when you look at that, you get tired at a certain point that, my God, like, where am I living? And, all of the situation that's happening right now. So, for example, right now I'm living in Karachi, and the state of the city, every day you'll hear a comment about it. Oh, in Karachi, the infrastructure is horrible. If it rains, like literally the streets turn to like a flood water road. But what do people do? They're like, oh, it's okay. We have been living like this for this long. We hope somebody in the future comes and changes the infrastructure of the city. And it applies to the entire country as well. It applies to all the fields. It applies to our education system. So when we get an admission into the university, we are like hoping, I hope I complete my degree and I get a job in this field, right?
Yeah.
I hope like and on all walks of life, I guess that's being applied. And then finally, in terms of science communication, that's what we have been hoping so far, and we hope that in the future there are more individuals like us who are interested in keeping the spirit of science alive. Uh, Developments and research work is going to continue, I guess, till the end of time. And there are going to be people who are passionate about it, who are curious enough to provide those information to the general public, or just spread it out for their own personal sake or for the sake of others. It doesn't matter, because it does benefit everybody. This is something that's helping the community in general. So if you do some research on a vaccine or something, maybe someday somebody will get that vaccine, they're cured of a disease or whatever it is, right? So science has been always it has this potential of helping everyone out, even though if some people are not agreeing to it, or they don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So you have to stay optimistic, and that's what it means to be a Pakistani. And I guess within the next few millennium years, that's how probably it's going to be. There might be more adjectives that are added to this word, and I hope the situation improves in such a way that we don't have to always, look out for positive outcomes. They're right in front of us so that we're happy. I hope that we have a situation like that, but right now this is how we are, and yeah, I hope it improves. for the future.
I would like to add to that, being optimistic is one thing. There's this phrase called turning fear into familiarity, and it can be both negative and positive. Pakistanis use fear to become familiar to it and do nothing about it. We just are like, Allah madad karega. But I like
Yeah,
to think turning fear into familiarity, like, yes, it is scary, but we're still going to do it. We're still going to
yeah,
protest. We're still going to move ahead. We're still going to ask the questions. We're still going to move to go and apply for the
Yeah.
job that we are not 100% qualified for. And that is a key takeaway. If any one of us stopped dead in our tracks thinking, oh, I'm too young for this, or I'm not an expert. No one is. In the beginning, no one is an expert. No one is ever a full expert even. We all keep learning. And that is the thing about this whole thing about learning is that you accept that you're not an expert. You're always going to learn. And as long as you're willing to learn, you will be fine. And I think that Scientia Magazine really brings all of that together, where you are incorporating this message of information and then understanding what the people need and bringing in the youth into it. You have a structure that has worked really well. And I hope that it translates into bigger projects. I hope that it gets to the government. I hope that the government understands that there are people, young people who understand Pakistan so much better than the people in position of power. And I think this is how I would like to end our interview. Thank you so much, both of you, for meeting me and taking out the time. I know that you both had busy days, but it was an incredible interview because I got to see so much different ways of looking at science communication. It's like so much information in my head. And again, I have a lot of other questions, but I'm going to wait till I have them reformed and maybe I can invite both of you back. Thank you so much.
Thank
Um,
you so much for
that's
inviting.
wonderful questions. Very insightful.
thank you.